He's so good. He's so good.
And we are back with another episode of the Great Movie Pod. I am Noah.
I'm Caleb.
It's so good to be back with another week. As you guys just saw or heard, the topic is Harrison Ford this week. I don't want to beat around the bush because you guys just witnessed that very emotional speech of him accepting the Lifetime Achievement Award. So we figured this would be a great time to, while he's alive and we're not sad and
Right?
mourning, because we've done a lot of in memoriam pods lately, sadly. So we figured we would do a celebration of life podcast and talk about Harrison Ford. Uncle Caleb, what does Harrison Ford mean to you? What as an actor?
I mean, he's just sort of the staple action big movie tent uh everyman hero for basically my entire life.
Yeah.
And it's like, you see him there and he's older now and whatever, and I don't mind doing talking about him now because he doesn't do very many films. So if he passes away when he's 90, he might only do two more films because he only does one every couple of years. So it's not like we're gonna like not be able to talk about the last 15 films of his. But yeah, it's just one of the first films I ever saw was him in Star Wars
Yeah.
as this. I mean, I'm not old enough. I'm old, but I'm not old enough to like I've seen movies from the 60s and 50s and whatever, but like I wasn't around to see them live and happening, to see action and adventure and all the Gregory Pecks and all those guys that were doing those kind of Errol Flynn. So like my introduction to an adventure hero was like Harrison Ford. And I think because I was a kid, I saw the Star Wars stuff before I saw the Indiana Jones stuff, but
Sure.
it's like Star Wars was so massive that it was just in your face. And it was right around the time where people started to have VHS tapes. And so that was one of the first things that that was one of the first big films. Well, I don't even know because I wasn't alive before that, but like it was one of the first big films you could like they would play on TV, and you'd have like your recording of Star Wars with the commercials on them. And you would sit at home on a Saturday and you would fast forward through the commercials to get to the rest of the movie. And like, so that's how a lot of us saw the movie. We saw it in the theaters, or I think I saw one of them in a drive-through theater or drive-in
That's
theater,
awesome.
not drive-through theater. And
Hey, how was the movie? I don't know. We only saw 2 seconds. We had to drive by.
and so like most of us, we just watched it like a zillion times because it wasn't like we had all these other movies to choose from. There wasn't streaming platforms. When I was a kid, when we finally got a TV, we had a TV that had like 4 channels, and like one was Snow, and there was like 3 or 4 that were Snow, and one was like some BBC thing, the 3 major ones, and some wonky channel. And like, so you just didn't have a lot of options to choose. And then, so you had like 3 or 4 VHS tapes, and you just watched them until they fell apart. And then you got another one, and so it is my childhood. He is the guy. And then basically he was the major star in tentpole movies until basically I was a couple years out of college. And then his career took a little bit of a sort of a downturn a little bit. We'll talk about that. But what does he mean to you in terms of I suppose I'd imagine Han Solo was one of his first roles you saw him in.
Yeah. I mean, the first time I ever watched Star Wars, I think I was like 6 or 7. And I was in the basement in Vernon when my parents lived in that mint green house.
By the way, just to make sure, is this recording right now?
Yeah.
Okay, because on my end, and you can cut this out or you can leave it in, people, you'll see what we're talking about. It just says 00 like .00. It doesn't
No,
look like
it's recording.
Okay,
We're
so
good.
people, now these are the hiccups that we have to look at. I don't know if it's recording. Are we going to talk about this again? I don't know.
We're keeping it
Anyway.
in. We're keeping this in.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, we are recording. Yeah, when my parents lived in that mint greenhouse in Vernon, I watched A New Hope for the first time in the basement, and that like it's forever engraved in your mind when you see Darth Vader come on the screen for the first time. It's forever engraved in your mind when you see Han Solo leaning back at that circular table in the cantina where he's just
Yep, yep.
talking to Alec Guinness, and it's such an interesting scene because you have like this guy Alec Guinness who's like this like Shakespearean actor who does serious roles, and he's playing a space wizard. And
Yeah,
he
yeah,
talked about it several times in like interviews, and it's great. But it's like he's sitting at this table with Han Solo, who's very just like the coolest of cool. Like everyone wanted that, like that little jacket, that little vest that he had.
yeah.
Everyone wanted to be that guy, and it's just credit to George Lucas because he created something so iconic and so wild that like that two guys like that could sit at the same table, and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. And
And that he was able to get him because it wasn't like
yeah,
George Lucas was like, obviously we know that like he got Han Solo, or he got Harrison Ford, I should say, for for the reasons he got him, but like to get Alec Guinness and to get Peter Cushing and other people that were like
yeah.
legit like actors at the time. Maybe they all just needed jobs. I don't know.
Maybe they were like, yes, play is higher, man. Yeah. But yeah, it's just he the minute he's on screen, talking about Harrison Ford, he just
Yeah.
oozes cool. He just oozes like this dude is the boss, and then shoots Greedo, and you're just like, this is awesome. This
yeah.
is the guy, and just he takes that movie like it's already a great movie. You're already hooked. You've already seen Darth Vader. You're already like, what the heck is going on?
Right.
But he takes that movie and just elevates it that much more. And he wasn't even supposed to be in that role. If I remember right, the story is that he was a janitor in the building where they were doing the read-throughs of like they were doing the read-throughs with Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, and they needed a guy to stand in to read the roles, and they were like, Harrison, can you do this? And he just did it, and then they ended up casting him, which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, it did help that he knew George Lucas from American
Yes.
Graffiti, and he weirdly enough, like, and we know his legend of him doing carpentry and like him running into people, and
Yeah.
there is like, I don't know any of it's sort of definitive in terms of like, because he doesn't really sit down and talk about a lot of this. There's like secondhand information, but basically at one point, like, because he worked and he got a bit part in like Apocalypse Now. But a lot of people don't realize that the reason he got the role in Apocalypse Now is that he was doing, in addition to all this other, his fabled like origin story. They'll probably make a movie about a biopic about him one day, I'm sure.
Probably.
But like he was doing work on Francis Ford Coppola's office. And Francis
Yeah.
Ford Coppola was like expanding his little office in Hollywood, and Harrison was just doing the carpentry work, and so Francis gave him a bit part in Apocalypse, and the other one he was doing, I can't remember what the other one was. So like there were barely speaking parts. Maybe at a line.
He even has probably around the same time, maybe a little bit later, but he even has a small part in E.T. that got cut out. He played the principal, I think, of the school, which is crazy. But yeah. Yeah, and then it was several years later, but I was still a kid, and I watched Indiana Jones for the first time, and then just it's so interesting. I don't remember what podcast we talked about this, but we mentioned this already, but I'm going to double down because it's so cool. He is one of the only actors to completely embody two different franchise roles.
Right.
And make them distinctly different and unique, but also the same. You're like, you're looking at Indiana Jones and you're like, that's Han Solo, but it's also like that's Indiana Jones. Like it's a whole, it's so separate. Like Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, and I don't think I could see him, like, he does Sherlock Holmes pretty good. That's about the closest comparison I I could kind of,
I think if they do a third and it's like really like well done, then you
yeah,
could make an argument that he's done two. But it's just because he did that one and it's been a while since he did it. But
yeah,
I see what you're saying. Like
yeah.
he
But there,
distinct.
yeah, but there aren't a lot of actors that do that. A lot of people have, like, a perfect example of it not happening is Chris Evans. Chris Evans has done several movies where he's played like a guy, and then it either hasn't panned out, like he was in the Fantastic Four movies, and those sucked. And then he became Captain America, and now every time he's in a movie, you're like, that's Steve Rogers. You cannot
Yeah.
see anything other than Steve Rogers. He is, and that's not a detriment to Chris Evans. He's a great actor, but like he is so synonymous. And Harrison Ford has somehow been. He's such a good actor that he has taken these giant roles and still separated it to where he can do other movies later, which we'll get to.
Yeah. And I think also just sticking with that theme, like it helps that there's like the movie types are so distinct. One's a period piece and one is an outer space. And so
Mm-hmm.
like it wasn't like he was playing a spy, a spy drama, a Mission Impossible thing, and then he did like an action role where he's also wearing similar kind of clothes and everything. That because
Right.
that's difficult to sort of, you
Yeah.
know, because I think we mentioned Tom Cruise once. He had some other a secondary franchise aside from the Mission Impossibles that he was like,
Yeah.
um,
He flies planes.
no, no, no. I guess I was, yeah, maybe it wasn't Tom Cruise. Well, it doesn't matter. But
Because
anyway,
he's
like
got
we
the
are
Top
saying,
Gun movies.
yeah, oh yeah, that's right, the Top Gun. So he has two
Yeah.
distinct, and it's very different because it's like you have a military that's very a uniform, the helmet, the everything, and then you have him over here, which is always just like sneaking around and very not military, and so it's so different enough. So that's why I wonder if like I don't think you can probably split that big personality more than two or three times into like franchise kind of work or
Yeah.
maybe it's been done. I'm sure it's been done. Oh, someone in the comments will be like, "Oh no, it's been so and so did it or whatever." But to do it in one film is different because you can do that. But like to do it
Yeah.
in multiple films as a franchise leading actor, that's a whole different story. No.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. And what was great about to just talking about Han Solo character before we get away from the Star Wars stuff, what was cool about it? Yeah, I mean, to me, I mean, obviously, I love the creature creation and it's always just fun and action and everything. But like, you talk about him being like oozing cool. If you go back because that was made in, I guess, 76 and it came out in 77 or whatever. But like, they were doing sci-fi films for like, decades before that, and they were always trying to have cool, lead actors and cool villains and whatever. And like, it just, you could sort of you can make an argument. Is it luck? Is it fate? Is it the casting? I mean, everything just happened to come at one time or whatever. But like they did happen on this one guy that like he's because you had like a Steve McQueen kind of cool. Now, if you would cast Steve McQueen as like Han Solo, that might have worked.
I think that would have been cool.
That would have been cool, right? I mean, Steve McQueen. I don't.
Yeah.
I know. The Indiana Jones will
James
talk about
Dean probably could have done it too.
James Dean. Like there's guys could have pulled it off based on what Lucas was creating, but like
Yeah.
but who knows how much Lucas was kind of telling him what to do.
Right.
I don't know. I mean I would say Lucas was a pretty rookie director, so he would either be do whatever you want or he would be like overly trying to control everything because he's trying to like control every single scene or whatever. I don't know what he was like in his. I can't remember. I used to know that stuff, but it's all gone now.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and then yeah, Indiana Jones. Uh, you you take him out of space and put him in sand and snakes
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it's
and
just
by the way, just to add this, and people forget, it wasn't like he did Star Wars and then like 10, 15 years later he did Indiana Jones, and so there was some time. Literally, the movies are coming out at the same time.
yeah.
Like it was like Star Wars was 77, Empire was 81, and like Raiders of the Lost Ark was 80 or 81. Like they're all like
Yeah, all lined up.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
all together, and but like you can watch them and believe he's in a whole different like thing, you
And to
know?
add another movie which also came out around the same time, Blade Runner.
Yeah,
Uh, Blade
and
Runner.
and you can add, maybe we'll talk about it a little later in terms of him like leading a franchise. The Jack Ryan stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if he had made one more film with that, then he would be known for at least the three, if you don't even count the Blade Runner stuff.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And it's interesting cuz I think uh I don't have that much on the Jack Ryan movies, but as far as the Jack Ryan movies go, they're really really good. A lot of people, I think they fly under the radar as
Yeah,
far
they
as
do.
films go.
Yeah,
And now with the John Krasinski Jack Ryan show, which is pretty good, pretty solid
yeah,
show.
yeah. It's a great
I
show.
think people forget uh, that he was even a part of the Jack Ryan franchise because it was like him, and then Ben Affleck did one with Morgan Freeman that was like,
Yeah, and
and
then the prequel to the Jack Ryan would be before Harrison Ford was Alec Baldwin in The Hunt for Red October. So
yes,
it's been played by five or six different characters, and
yeah,
um, uh, but yeah, it's I guess we can talk about it later. But like, if we stick with Indiana Jones, if we think chronologically a little bit, like because they were happening at the same time, and then he sort of
yes,
that catapulted into this giant stardom, and then he started to like choose whatever you want, and
yeah, yeah.
he
Choose
had
your own
this.
adventure.
Yeah, and he basically had, I would argue, probably about a 25-year run of like almost like not the perfect resume, but it's very difficult to argue anyone had a better 25-year run. I
Oh,
mean,
without a doubt. And, like we're talking about, it all kicks off with Indiana Jones and Star Wars. And Indiana Jones does something I think that is like very interesting. And there aren't a lot of movies, maybe like the Mummy franchise or National Treasure, but they really get you hyped about history and
yeah,
like
they do. Yeah,
and and um and an adventure in a sense of I want to go out and explore the world and not necessarily like I want to go out and fight Nazis or I want to go out and like
right.
swing from trees or do like crazy stunts. It like although those things do happen, it gives you a sense of wonder with the world and the real events.
And I think that sort of like fedora wearing adventurer sort of character was, I mean, that's sort of what George Lucas grew up on, whether it was like, comic books or also like sort of B movie kind of stuff. But like, I've watched a few of them lately. I don't really remember the titles because they're sort of like nondescript, Journey to the Center of the blah, 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 blah. And it's like,
Oh
okay.
yeah.
Um, and there's like stop motion animation and like dinosaurs, and there's some like damsel in distress and everything, and but then there's like this sort of gap where not like none of that was really happening, or anything that happened was so cheesy and terrible that like no one, so it's kind of a dead genre. And Lucas, like as much as people sort of like to knock Lucas, like without even talking about him creating the whole Star Wars universe and the whole thing, like he created a secondary thing with the Indiana Jones stuff and did it so well. It's
Yeah.
just such a great. We'll talk about maybe that as like a. We'll talk about maybe that whole series at some point, and we'll get into the nitty gritty. But him as just like again like a swashbuckling adventurer, you know, devil may care character, and like it's just like as soon as you see him in the beginning where he's in the Raiders, where he's going after this little sort of icon that he's trying to get in the down in the pits of this Mayan temple or whatever,
With
and
Alfred
like
Molina.
Alpha Morlina, his very small role, and like and then like spoilers, even though it's been a couple of decades, but like somebody dies in the first couple of scenes, and like him as this adventurer is just like, well, like, and that's just like that's where you start to love the character because and then like in that sequence where he goes and gets the thing and he runs and he escapes the natives and jumps on the plane, and you see like adventuring, daring do, you see humor, you see humility, you see like humor, you see like
Well, that's the
him being
thing.
afraid.
And that's the thing with that he doesn't get to do in Star Wars necessarily is a complete range of emotion because you do see like you do see love and you do see some like sarcastic humor, but it's pretty much straight man. He's pretty much
Yeah,
just like the space gangster straight man, doesn't really
yeah,
have much, kind of like a Humphrey Bogart in space kind of guy. And then you get Indiana Jones, where you get humor. Like he is really funny. I think people undervalue how funny he is in the Indiana
yeah,
Jones movies. Like a lot of the side characters have really funny moments, but
yeah.
uh but he's got a lot of funny lines in a role
And
where
he
you would
deadpans.
think,
Well, like in that speech, he just deadpans so well.
yeah, yeah, so great, yeah. Um, I love like, and the snakes, yeah, like
Mm.
he's this
It
badass
had to be
macho.
snake.
He's a machismo dude, and then he gets in the plane at the beginning, and then there's the snake in the plane, and he's like,
Reggie.
ah, like what
Yeah,
is going on? So yeah, it's interesting because it takes that suave of Han Solo, and then adds a whole nother bunch of dimensions, and that's probably why it's so different, and you can take those two and think of them as separate entities,
yeah.
because there's so much more depth when it comes to Indiana Jones. And I love that. I love, and he's so good too in those movies, interacting with different kinds of people. He has like the James Bond air of every movie there's a new love interest for him, and
Yeah, yeah.
there's like a new, like, I mean, it always goes back to Marion, but like there's like a stylized like love affair for him. And
Yeah.
then there's his interactions with Short Round, Kihei Kwan, love you, shout
Hmm.
out,
Yep.
Oscar winner. But like he's got the John Rhys Davies, like, has such a great like on-screen chemistry with him.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the name of the white professor dude, the actor's name.
Oh, Denholm Elliott.
Yes,
Yep.
brilliant. They have great chemistry because they just like. And the cool thing is too, like, he's a professor, and he also captures the nerdy element of being obsessed with all of this stuff too.
Yeah.
It's not just like it's
I
nerdy too.
I tell you what, I like, because there was a moment where, because I had, like everyone, when you're a kid, you don't know what you want to do. You might want to try different jobs or professions or whatever. And there was like a strong chunk of time where, like, and even in university, and even for post grad, I was thinking about doing archaeology work, and part of it was and that's, I would say, because I've done a bunch of traveling, around the world and everything, and part of that is like the inspiration from that Indiana Jones, like, let's just see what happens, and I remember I was like exploring these ruins in this it's called the Temple of the Sun on the coast in northern Peru, and I was like finding pottery, and it was just like, I don't know, these things still exist in the world. And so it was also, so for me, it was a chance to go out and have my own like adventures. And some of that goes back to seeing this as a kid, like just from that opening scene where he's like trying to find this little, like, little icon that they're worshiping, and then he goes to, obviously the medallion, and he's finding the ark, and he's going for the Von Kara stones, and like every movie has all the different things, the Dial of Destiny, all the spears, and it's just, it hasn't been, aside from Brendan Fraser's Mummy movies, since then, so say like since the early 80s, nobody, no director or actor has really like been able to like do anything like that again. And because, and when they've tried it, like I don't know if you've ever seen the movie King Solomon's Mines,
I don't think so.
or Alan Quartermain in the Lost City of Gold.
I might have seen that one.
That was with what's his name from oh gosh, Richard Chamberlain.
Okay,
The legendary actor Richard Chamberlain.
yeah.
He made an action film where he wore a fedora, and it was actually one of Sharon Stone's first films, and James Earl Jones is in it as an African priest guy, or African warrior with a giant like double-bladed axe, and like that just couldn't do it. They brought in three of the biggest names at the time, and they're running around through Africa looking for like lost gemstones. And I loved it as a kid. I watched it on VHS all the time, and like, but like it didn't do what it should have done because it wasn't Indiana Jones. And it's like Brendan Fraser's the only one that has been able to sort of, and he did it again with like action, jumping around, swinging on stuff, whatever, shooting at things, but showing a fragility and like some emotional range and like architecture and archaeology and but like no one else has really been able to like put their own thing on it. It's weird.
Yeah, especially for not franchise, a genre that is so fun. There's so much you can do with it. There's so many different avenues and adventures, and I think a lot of people, when they do that kind of a genre, try to just go so big that they lose the small. And when with what you're talking about with like the different complexities of the character, they're just like, oh, let's get all the biggest celebrities, put them in one movie, and have them try to find the Holy Grail again, even though that's been done 30,000 times, or the Goblet of Life, or whatever the heck it's called, like just the Fountain of Youth. People find also horrible movie, by the way, if you haven't seen Fountain of Youth, terrible film. But
which one is that?
Fountain of Youth came out last year. By all purposes, it should be good. Guy Ritchie directed, and it starred John Krasinski and Natalie Portman. By all intents and purposes, it should be okay, but it was terrible. But yeah, you gotta have something new. You gotta have a treasure no one's heard of before. You have to have people that are balanced. You have to have stars and no stars. And no one has really gotten on that, which is why we're so excited for the new Mummy movie. It's going to be great.
Yeah, that's going to be great. That's gonna be great. I'm curious to know if Brendan Fraser, because if the other actors, they have aged a bit, but they generally look about the same or whatever. But like Brendan Fraser physically does look different because he's just gone through some different stuff with injuries. So I'm curious if they will write him a role that allows him to do the character, play the character in a different sort of physical way, or if he's going to use this as a challenge to sort of just like get back into like, he doesn't have to do all the stunts that he used to do, but if it's going to be a challenge, and I'm just going to use this as a chance to like get into better shape and get,
be pretty wild.
Curious.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see because it seems like a lot of his roles lately, when he's had his comeback, he's slowly getting into the shape that he was in. So I'm interested to see if that's what he's gonna end up with, or if he's just gonna be like, you know what, I earned whatever body I have, and I'm just gonna act the heck out of it and see what I do with it.
I don't know though, because he spent a lot of the 90s, like, I mean, granted, in the Mummy movies, he wasn't really flashing like this great body, whatever.
True,
but
that was George of the Jungle.
Right, yeah. So he did a number of ones where he was fine showing off his body and everything. But then even after the Mummy or thereabouts, I remember this because I saw the movie when I was traveling in Colombia with my girlfriend at the time. We watched Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Oh, yeah.
And there are some times where he shows, he doesn't like go full on like, I don't think he bears maybe he bears his chest on, but he's definitely in like top shape. Yeah. So it was just like the Mummy, he didn't do that because it just made sense for him to wear like the button ups and all the all the stuff. And so I think there's a little bit of an ego factor. He'll probably want to like, I can come back. I can do this. He has kids.
Yeah, he does.
And kids are a good motivator to like, hey dad, maybe you want to like eat a salad? I don't know.
I guess we'll see. But changed the genre, reimagined and made a hallmark and a point of arrival, like you're looking up to Indiana Jones every time you're creating that kind of a movie. Yeah. So that's just real cool that all the parties involved and couldn't do it without Harrison Ford. But do we want to move on to Blade Runner? Because that is pretty
yeah. I mean, because Blade Runner, the first one came out in 1980, and the Blade Runner 49 was that 2014, 17, 18, something like that.
Probably, I think 17.
Yeah. No, I wrote it down. It was 2017. Yep. Yeah, it's to to have like a hand, it's a weird way of saying it, but to have like a premier role in like arguably the best, because the Star Wars is technically a fantasy movie. It's not a sci-fi movie, but like,
Right.
but it's like the biggest fantasy movie of all time. And then to be in like one, like maybe a top five premier sci-fi film of all time, and then to be in like, I would argue maybe the top one, but you could say a top five adventure movie of all time. It's like, and the sci-fi one we're talking about is Blade Runner, which is a early Ridley Scott film, and just, he is so good, and it didn't need a sequel at the time, and so it was a
Mm.
great standalone film that was just, he just played this detective in this like rainy, dark, futuristic neo noir like environment, and it was, what was your impression the first time you saw it?
First time I saw Blade Runner, I had it was like a haze of just like one of the rare movies where you forget you're watching a movie and you're just like in the movie. You're like
Yes.
a part of the movie. Combination of the music, which is very cerebral in that
Yeah.
film, and the gothic vibe of the futuristic city, because it's a very interesting art design, especially for the
Because
time
they
that
don't make it clean like a lot of one in the
no,
future. They want to make everything clean, where this was like gritty.
it's gritty. It's very it's kind of Sin City vibe.
Yeah.
Very like underworld. I when I think a lot about how that Coruscant in Star Wars is very reminiscent of what they ended up doing with Blade Runner, because it's like a giant city world.
Yeah.
And obviously they really only stay in one place for the duration of the movie, not one room, but it's one city. It's not, they don't go to multiple locations around the world.
Right.
But it was one of those movies where I wasn't cognizant of the fact that I was watching a movie. The movie started and I was so just like, from that opening scene where the flying car is just zooming in over the city and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like it's
And
just,
and
it's a,
and it seems like there's something to be said. I mean, well, I guess I've been saying it forever to some degree, but the having the limitations. So say Ridley Scott's making this movie, and it's like when they made, like you said, Coruscant, like decades later, they had the ability of unlimited money, and unlimited amount of CGI and digitized, da 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 da. So like they can create so much, and almost like, instead of taking the time to make one location like Ridley Scott was doing and making it seem very, very real, because you have to, because you did, like, yeah, they were doing special effects back then, but it not like, basically the year 2000 was sort of really when they started taking off with sort of that kind of stuff and
yeah.
making it like really legitimate looking stuff. But back then they're just like, he just was like, here's what I got, and here, let's get a rain machine, and all the actors would probably be like super upset they have to act and run around the rain, but like when they see the finished product they'll be like, oh yeah, that's really good, because then, like, a character has to somewhat improvise about what it's going to
Mhm.
be like. You have to play the character, but then you have to play the character that's getting rained on, and you're
Yeah.
still doing detective work, and you're asking your whatever the actor you're working with is saying, and
And
yeah,
and Harrison, having just played Han Solo,
yeah,
is so different. It's not, once again,
he's
it's
almost unrecognizable as
yeah,
himself.
yeah. He doesn't have the suaveness of both the movies that we were talking about before, both Raiders of the Lost Ark and
And then
Star Wars.
physically looks very different with his outfit and his hair.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Um it's very much like a neo noir kind of feel of
yeah,
like you'd see in a Humphrey Bogart film, but without like the cheesy dialogue and without
right,
the
yeah,
the whatever. But like just such a interesting role. It's very, I mean, obviously because of the subject matter, very robotic. But like that's the point. Like um, it's such a like the way he acts reflects what the story is about, which is you're supposed to do as an actor, but like for that specific storyline, his acting fits so well with like what he is as a character. Not to like,
Yeah.
if you haven't seen it, see it. But again, spoiler, him being in the replicant era of things going on, and then 20 years, 40, what? How many years later?
Well, that
30.
would be 10, 20, 37 years later or whatever.
Yeah, 37, almost 40 years later, you come back to the same role in a sequel that fans of the original movie were like, "This, we don't need a sequel. We don't want a
Right.
sequel.
Yeah.
We don't." And I'm sure you're someone that can talk about that. And um,
Yeah, but then that was the thing is that like I said, when it came out, obviously, and when it came out, not like just like the next year, people don't, oh, we don't want a sequel. It didn't need a sequel because it was
no.
a standalone story, which is like, I love, I love films. We just talked about these couple of like, giant like movie franchises. I love seeing characters again and again for some characters, and then someone like, yeah, in the back of your head, you're like, yeah, I'd like to see Decker again in another Blade Runner, but after a couple years go by, especially back in the day where there wasn't like internet and all the hype, it was like when it was done, if they weren't hyping anything, you never heard about it again unless you wanted to like hear about it. Like it wasn't, there was no secondary hyping going on there. Yeah, they were like movie or there were magazines in Hollywood, of course, that would talk about that stuff. But most people, that's when like maybe like the People magazine and stuff that that was available, but like the people that were watching the films weren't really like reading that stuff, not really, So when it came around decades later, and we heard, oh, Blade Runner is going to be a sequel. I mean, my first reaction was like, yeah, no, thank you. Like, I'm fine. Like, hey, here's an idea, make a new film,
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I would say I would stick largely by that. 99% of me would stick by that for almost any. Like, we don't need more sequels to nonsense. There's so many great authors out there and screenwriters that are creating, great worlds and dialogues and these great things. Like, give them a shot. You
yeah,
know, that's
yeah.
why I get annoyed when Ridley Scott takes his time to like make like his 19th Alien film. It's like, dude, go make a film about the Peloponnesian War, or like go make a film about well, he did make a film about Magellan, didn't he? But like anyway, just make all these other films. But he's like, no, I must make another Alien film. He's actually making like 4 or 5 movies in one year this year.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's making like a Western. He's doing the Alien one. He's going to studios at this point. And I just read an article. That's what it's fresh in my head. I read an article where he basically was like, look, I only got so much time left. I used to do like one film a year, whatever. And I'm like, I don't got time left. So when I go to a studio and they say, we don't know about this project, he'll say, okay, I'll go to another studio and make a movie there. And then he started doing it. So now when he goes back to the studios, they're like, oh, wait, he's not bluffing. He's going around making films. We better grab this guy. So that's why he has, and he's like,
I love it.
he's talking about, he's like maybe a Gladiator 3. Like he's just like, I don't even know. I'm gonna make stuff.
Here's the thing, Gladiator 3. I know this is a Harrison Ford pod, but we're
Yeah.
on Ridley Scott now. Gladiator 3. I didn't need Gladiator 2. I don't think it was necessary, but I had so much fun watching Gladiator 2. I'm all on board for Gladiator 3. The fact that, because you can watch Gladiator 1 and you can tell yourself there weren't any sequels, and then you can watch Gladiator 2 as its own film and be like, this is awesome. And then you can probably watch Gladiator 3 when that comes out and be like, this is awesome. And it does not take away from the fact that Gladiator 1 is still one of the greatest movies ever made. And that is why these sequels rock.
Yeah, and by the way, and I didn't know this, and I learned this when I was reading. I just like did a. It's like you can Google and then they give you the AI like little like blurb first, and like I like did what is Ridley Scott working on, and it was like the whole bunch of stuff. So I just clicked on the articles and read them, and I didn't realize that I guess Gladiator 2 it actually made a profit.
Yeah.
So if you make a profit for Hollywood and you got Ridley Scott that wants to make films, you're just gonna grab them because there aren't young baby Ridley Scotts running around that we know of quite yet.
No.
Right. Well, they exist. We just don't. They're not given the budget to do the stuff yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, so okay. So we. I guess I don't have a lot to say about the sequel to Blade Runner, but only that it was incredibly well done. Great, like cinematography is fantastic. The music, the acting. It was a great film.
The one thing I have to say is a tribute to Harrison Ford as an actor is that he came back and, say what you want about the Star Wars sequels, they're not the greatest, but as far as individual performances, in Star Wars 2, he comes back 40, 50 some odd years later, re-inhabits a role that he was known for, that he killed, that he initiated, that he created with the help of, writers, actors, directors,
Right.
whatever. But like, and did it so well again that you're like, yes, we needed this. This is great. And like him coming back as Decker, like you didn't need it until you watched it, and then you realized how much you missed it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and if you haven't seen it, definitely we're not going to do spoilers because it was only made like 10 years ago, but like he has a very small role, but it's
Yeah.
like a role that when you see it, you're like, I'm so glad that he took the time and like you said, put the effort in to like bring that character back to life for his couple of scenes, and it's like
Yeah.
it's worth.
And it had
Worth it.
really good chemistry. And going forward, talking about some more individual films, he had really good chemistry with Ryan Gosling in that movie, even for the small amount of time that he was on screen. So like he's
Yeah.
very good at working with other actors and like raising their level of
Yeah.
success and achievement.
It's too bad Ryan Gosling's arc has already like diminished. So
Hey! Project Hail Mary looks really good.
it looks so bad.
Did you read the book?
No.
Oh, did you like?
Wait, you read a book?
Yeah. Did you not like The Martian?
What?
Did you not like The Martian?
No,
With
no,
Matt
I love
Damon?
The Martian. One, my criticism is that it looks too much like The Martian. It's a little too goofy. Now, granted, and I've talked about this for a while with you. I think modern day cutting of trailers is doing an injustice to some movies when they're better than the trailer makes.
So
them
you know
look.
the guy who made The Martian wrote both.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I don't know. Early reactions from critics, or is that it's the best sci-fi movie since Interstellar? But not saying a lot because there haven't been a lot of great sci-fi movies since Interstellar. But that's pretty high praise to compare it to Interstellar.
I'm
So
curious because in the trailer it makes it look like, oh, like there's a teacher and like, oh, you can just figure it out. Look, you can go into the sun and figure it out. I'm like, this looks so dumb. And like, it looks like the guy was like, oh, I wrote The Martian and I don't really have another idea. So I'll write The Martian and put him in a slightly different area. Like,
I think the problem with Ryan Gosling is that he does so many movies that when he has a great movie, I feel like he has like the reverse Matt Damon effect, where like Matt Damon does so many movies, but like every movie you're like, this is amazing, this is great, Matt Damon's great, but you watch Ryan Gosling and he'll have movies that you don't care about. Like Barbie was not a movie that I cared about, but it wasn't made for me. It was made for women and they enjoyed it, and so that was cool. But like,
but here's his problem is a Matt Damon problem. It's that it's Ryan Gosling in a movie. And unless you are really good, and he has talent, of course, obviously, but like unless you're like really good, like Matt Damon looks like himself in every film. Like that's why when he's doing whatever the new what's the one? Is it not Troy, but
talking about the new Christopher Nolan film.
yeah,
The
Odysseus
Odyssey.
or the Odyssey or whatever it is. Yeah,
Yeah, The
And it's like,
Odyssey.
oh, it's Matt Damon in a costume.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, the Ryan Gosling, where he just looks like Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that
Yeah.
some actors don't. Well, we can go to this segues right into Harrison Ford because not everybody looks. Like I saw some movie where they made Matt Damon wear like long hair or something, and it wasn't supposed to be a comedy, and it was like, okay, that's just not going to work. And it's like, so Harrison Ford's the same way. He doesn't really adapt his look a ton.
No.
But he makes very distinct characters, and I think Gosling has the talent to do it. I don't think he's quite done it yet.
No. There's been a couple movies that Ryan has had that I've been like, I like this a lot. He's really good. And then he'll do a movie where I'll be like, all right, I don't really care. Like Nice Guys is really good. Have you seen that with Russell Crowe? I think you'd love that. Nice Guys is great. Yeah. Anyways, so we talked about the Blade Runners. What movie do you have up next? What is a film? Because we've talked about his franchise roles.
I mean, gosh, that's the problem with the guy. Like when we're talking about with Robert Duvall, there's just so many great films, and like as the audience can, as you guys see, like we can just get lost in these movies talking about, and then all the tangents that happen because of all the people and the great directors and actors and the scoring of films and um, but I think there what I kind of liked about because I want to get to um, a couple bigger films in a second, but I'm going to give a little shout out, like mini shout out in the middle,
Yeah.
because while he was doing the Star Warses and the Indiana Jones, he did like a series of like smaller dramatic films that were really good and were just standalone. Like, so he did a movie called Frantic. He did a movie called Presumed Innocent, where he
Mm.
played like a lawyer that was like accused of murder. He played a movie called Regarding Henry, which was him who he was a victim of like a shooting, and he basically came back with sort of like very little memory and sort of like the mind of a child almost, and like so like he did these little standalone films that were like some were like thrillers and some were detective and some were a little more lighthearted, and he just nailed every single one. He did one of my one film I really love is called The Mosquito Coast, where he
Okay.
plays like an eccentric scientist who takes his family to live a more simple life in the jungles of South America. And it's with
Uh,
Helen Mirren and a young River Phoenix.
huh. I've never seen that
And
one.
it's just a standalone film about like the trials, the maddening nature of someone who is obsessed with this like idea of the purity of living
Huh.
off of the jungle land, and um, it's a great film. It's challenging. It's a family dynamic that goes wrong, and so he just made these little standalone films in between these giant, and they were successful. That was the thing. It wasn't like he was making like he was like because we have these action film guys that now they're like they make a big film and then they try and do a small drama and it doesn't work because
Yeah.
they're this giant well-known actor, but he just kept banging them out, and then sort of towards the tail end a lot of those um that's when he made one of my favorite films ever is The Fugitive.
Yes, that's on my list too. Oh, what a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, just the I wasn't around to see it, but there was a I think a TV show that might have been based on a book, or I don't know what it was based on, but there was something that. But then when they brought it out, and it was like he plays a well, spoilers, he plays a doctor who a murder happens and he goes on the run because he doesn't he says I'm not the guy, and the guy who's chasing him is Tommy Lee Jones, and maybe his best acting job ever, where he was
Oh yeah.
nominated for a bunch of stuff, and it's just and the dynamic between those two
Just
is so
that
good.
that one scene where they're in the rainy the
In the
tunnel, the
tunnel,
tube.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's like,
Real good.
I didn't shoot my wife, and Tommy
Yeah.
Lee Jones is like,
The Harrison Ford in that scene has the finger. He does
yeah,
that like there was a man in my house like this like
his finger goes
you
everywhere.
find that man like it's like it was such he's like an old I saw a thing the other day, and I'm not a huge fan of Disney doing this, but Disney keeps live actioning all of their
Ugh,
cartoon
yeah,
movies.
yeah.
But I did see someone suggested doing a live action Up with Harrison Ford as the old guy, and I kind of
Oh
love
yeah.
that. I kind
Well, that's been a rumor for like a while now,
I know.
but I don't know about
But
that.
that,
But I
but
just
that
love
kind
it.
of, but that kind of like finger whack, because he's not even old when that movie comes out. He's
No,
probably what 50, 40s.
yeah, probably about 50. Yeah.
Yeah, so like he just does that finger wag in that scene. I don't know. It's such an old man like finger wag. I don't know.
And
I
in
love it.
that scene, if anyone wants to watch the movie, you watch the finger wag, and you watch how because he uses both hands, and he uses his fingers are just wildly gesticulating. But if you watch all of the movements on his face during just that one scene, you realize how that's the reason that he's so that you just get that you're drawn to him is that like you don't know you want to know what he's experiencing throughout every single moment of every single scene
Yeah.
because so many things happen on his face at that moment, and that's just like oh that scene and Tommy Lee Jones is like I don't care. It's like yes. That's right.
Yeah.
You don't care. You
It's one of
don't
the
care.
it's one of the greatest cat and mouse movies ever. Like
Yes.
it's so well crafted, and it's one of those edge of the seat movies too. Like if you've never seen it, you're gonna sit on the edge of your seat like I don't know what's gonna happen until like the very last 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. Well, you know what's kind of funny, and I was thinking about this when we were talking about which one we were talking about. Well, it doesn't matter. Um, but I guess we were talking about like because like Blade Runner was a little bit of a thriller detective but like the one like genre of film that people kind of forget about rewatching are like thrillers and like detective dramas and stuff. So
Hmm.
like the movie Frantic that he made in like 91 or 87 or whatever it was is a fantastic neo noir. It's directed by some European guy. Like it's a fantastic like thriller,
I'm gonna add that to my
and
list. I don't think
nobody
I've seen
now
it.
has ever seen
I
that
don't think
film.
I've seen it.
Right? Yeah, it's a small film, but like that's the thing is like right now you can tell people and we'll go back and they'll watch like an Armageddon or maybe they'll go back and watch Indiana Jones or a big movie. People forget about watching those thrillers, and those thrillers stand the test of time if they're really well done.
So it was actually it was directed by everyone's favorite Roman Polanski.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was going to say his name.
Yeah.
Now our podcast is going to get like deleted now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. I'll just bleep his name
Yeah, I
out.
forgot about. Yeah, that's right. Polanski. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Unfortunate. But yeah. We're kind of going in chronological order, so I
A
won't
little bit.
mess that up. But I feel like you have to bring up Air Force One.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
It's iconic. It's brilliant, and it has I think they've only been in 2 movies together because the other one was not so good, and I wished it was. But him and Gary Oldman together is just so good. It's
Yeah, it
such a
really is.
good pair, and like Gary Oldman can work with anybody. He is such a chameleon. He is one of the greatest actors of all time, and the just putting him in a movie where he's just also Gary Oldman has in that movie has like an Alan Rickman quality. Like he's on the same level of Hans Gruber in that movie.
Yeah,
Like if you
yeah,
told me him and Hans Gruber's character, like if they were friends in that universe, like
yeah,
if that was a shared space, you'd believe that because like
yeah.
it's such a well crafted villain, and Harrison Ford plays such a great role
You,
in
you know what they should have
juxtaposition.
done? They should have made a Die Hard four with Gary Oldman as the bad guy.
Oh, that would have been so good.
Because Die Hard like died off after number three, and
Yeah,
they made like number 4, 5, or 6 or whatever. But like none of them
yeah.
really did anything. But like,
No,
and part of it was you couldn't come up with a good enough villain, and I think part of that was like maybe they didn't have the budget for number 4, so they're just like whoever we can get. Like Bruce Willis will like lead us to glory, but it was like even
yeah,
Bruce Willis at that point was like, well, the script's not very good, and I'll just
yeah,
phone it in, and yeah.
yeah.
But Gary Oldman in Air Force One is he's fantastic, and he's the master of accents, and he's just so good
Oh
in
yeah,
that as a
oh yeah.
Russian dissident, whatever.
Yeah, and it's a movie that takes place for the most part in one location, and
Yeah,
it
which is always tricky.
always tricky, and to get it that well done, and to like heighten the suspense, like it's just
It's like Under Siege 2 with Steven Seagal on a train.
a
I mean, that's like we're talking that level of cinema. I mean, really.
yeah, yeah. Steven Seagal, oh man, I don't think he should get
Hey,
his
do
own
not
pod.
besmirch Mr. Seagal.
Would you do a whole pod on Steven Seagal films?
Oh, I'd
I,
do it 1,000%. I would do. Yeah, Under Siege. You have like where he plays like a Native American guy fighting like the oil people. You have like him on a train, him on a boat. You have him like as like this like Italian dude kicking everyone's butt. And you have like he like talk about a character actor. This guy's all over the place. All over the place.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Okay. All right. Well, maybe that'll be in the future of this pod, a Steven Seagal pod. I think the only
Yeah,
way I would do
but
that is if Steven
the
Seagal
problem's
died.
gonna be you probably haven't seen you've probably seen 10% of his big films, so you'd have to
Yeah,
like
yeah,
spend a whole week
I'd have
watching.
to spend a whole week, and then that'd be terrible because I'd have to spend a whole week watching Steven Seagal
But
movies.
if you go at it thinking I'm gonna watch a cheesy action film from the 80s or early 90s, like, and then have fun with it as like a popcorn movie with the lady, I mean, that might work then,
That's
you
me when I
know.
watch the Expendables movies, which Harrison Ford is also in one of
Ah,
those.
yeah, number
Yeah.
three.
Um, but yeah, I just there's Harrison in Air Force One, like just so I just love the suspense in that movie. As same talking with The Fugitive, like those two movies, like heightened suspense. You're like, what is going to happen?
Yeah,
Uh, and that I feel like for a movie that is now older, that is hard to find if you watch it now. There's not a
yeah.
lot of movies that capture that well of suspense, and maybe it's because there's there's too much CGI now. A lot of stuff back then is practical effects, so it feels more real. It feels like there's more stakes in the line. I don't know, but
Hmm.
yeah.
I think there's also less leading men that can pull some of this stuff off.
Mm,
You
mm,
know, a lot of the leading men that had the chance, and I was going to get to this anyway because I know you wanted to bring up some series that he's been in, and I'm guessing this we're talking about some recent series. Um, I kind of feel like Harrison Ford hit a little bit of a downturn, and that downturn sort of corresponded also with like the rise of the um all of the comic book films,
mm,
and you
mm-hmm.
had a lot of these leading men that were like that could have been action or like big tent kind of movie holders in the 80s and 90s, but as soon as you don a cape or like you're jumping around in a leotard, like it's hard to then like I'm gonna be a guy as like I'm gonna be the president or I'm gonna be
Yeah.
a guy on the run who's like an everyman. Like they just I do feel like there's a, and then I think some of the because a lot of the money was going towards those movies, like there weren't as many big movies that were being put into production about big leading man kind of roles. And so I think I think that's one of the reasons that Harrison Ford was kind of like, I'm just going to Wyoming and becoming a pilot. And he did films, but he just was kind of doing an ensemble stuff for like about 10, 15 years. And he was
Yeah.
like, meh. And Blade Runner was one of the first big ones. He did the Star Wars one where he didn't have much, like a cameo, but like, and then he did Blade Runner, which is a small role, but it was kind of like him trying to get back into it again.
And just before Blade Runner,
And then
uh,
those series, yeah,
honorable mention, just before Blade Runner, with the late, which is sad to say, Chadwick Boseman, Harrison played a really good role in 42 about Jackie Robinson.
yeah, I thought he was fine.
Yeah, no, it's fine, but
Yeah,
it's your typical um sports movie that if they didn't cast Harrison Ford, they probably would have cast Dennis Quaid.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
that
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of like
yeah.
a it's a Dennis it's an I love that guy playing an old white guy in a sports movie. Like
Yeah.
that's that role. And it's nothing crazy, but like that's a great biopic as far as biopics go.
I thought who was the guy who played the main character though?
Chadwick Boseman.
I thought it was someone else that was like also playing. Or well, there was another one that came out at the same time though. So maybe I'm conflating the two. Well,
Okay,
anyway,
maybe. Yeah.
I, but I felt when I watched it, I felt like the lead actor, if it was Chadwick, fine, but I just didn't feel he quite had the charisma to pull it off. And maybe
Possible.
if he did have the charisma, maybe it was just that it didn't come across on in that particular film.
I think also the fact for Chadwick is that that was one of his first like big roles, and so like that was like an intro, and then he started getting like Black Panther and like bigger roles, and then unfortunately passed away, and
Right. Right.
yeah, but so yeah, so did that did Star Wars, and then not too long ago, I think right before COVID. They it came out, but I don't know if you ever saw it, but a Call of the Wild.
Oh yeah, because that was one of my favorite books when I was a kid.
Yeah, did you like it? Did you not like it? I loved it.
I didn't like it because they did too much CGI with the dog.
Okay, okay, okay.
And
That's fair.
there's a weird thing that it's called like it's like called the Unseemly Valley or something like that. That
Uncanny
basically
Valley.
Uncanny Valley, yeah, where they're basically like it's a goofy way of saying when you have CGI that looks very, very similar to a person or an animal or whatever, it makes, but it's not quite there.
Yeah.
It makes the audience a little like,
That's
eh.
fair. That's fair. I
Yeah,
really I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
yeah,
I remember listening to that audiobook as a kid, reading that book I think for middle school at some point, and I don't know, I just liked the CGI was wonky, but also it was like right at the start of like the CGI slop fest where like it was like they were doing it a couple times to like, so at that, I think at that point when I first watched it I was like, this is awesome that we can do this, because it
right,
wasn't so mainstream that was like every single movie had that
right,
kind of a
yeah.
thing. So I think I was not desensitized to it, so it was still cool to me.
And I think for me it was in the movie The Call of the Wild. I think part of my not particularly not enjoying that aspect of it at least was that I grew up when there was a dog in the movie, you could just have a dog in the
It was a
movie.
real dog. Yeah.
And and probably off camera, you probably had like six dogs that were trained to do six different things. And then like in the movie, you got the one that's going to jump, you got the one that's going to be nice. And that's why they always said like the two things you never want to use when you're making a movie are
Kids and
like
animals.
exactly kids and animals. So like, but it did work as a movie if you got the right director with the patience to do it. But like
Yeah.
throwing in CGI doesn't always quite work if you're trying to,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. And then yeah, I don't know if you had another movie you wanted to mention before I talk about more like what he's doing now. But
yeah, I would just say that, right, like just to sort of like he had that little bit of a sort of a dip. He also got married and he had a kid and he was interested in flying, and after decades he's probably like, I'm not getting great movie roles, because there was a time where they weren't really given good movie roles to like older actors like him and Bruce Willis and like guys from the 80s and 90s. They started to offer him again to like these younger guys, but the younger guys couldn't pull it off.
right.
So there's sort of a little bit of a
And
dip for.
every movie that they didn't offer to the younger guys went to Liam Neeson.
Well, yeah, those. Well, well, that's a whole weird thing where he
I
like
think we should
changed
do a
the whole
podcast.
genre.
We should do a podcast that's just Liam Neeson action movies.
That'd
Because
be
he
interesting.
because he
Yeah.
has a whole
Wow.
filmography of like actual like
Yeah.
legitimate film, but I'm talking like direct to Amazon slop, like because he's got so many
But
like
there's some of them. I've watched a lot of them. Some of them
no,
are
some of
pretty
them are
good
real
films,
good.
action films.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I think that'd
Um,
be a good pod.
but yeah, no, I was going to say just to sort of to before we get into the couple of things he's been doing recently. I guess recently, but like um, so he did that little dip, but then he came back with Call of the Wild, which had a lot of promise, and then he had the new Indiana Jones, which was really pretty good,
Yep.
and then he had the new Marvel film, which I haven't seen yet, but
Did you end up
people are
watching the
talking
new
good about it.
Indiana Jones movie? Did you like it?
I liked it, yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah. I thought the time travel at the end was a little wonky, but like
yeah,
aside from that, like super fun. I enjoyed it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then obviously, I would bring up because if you were going to talk about it too, him getting involved in the I guess it's technically a prequel, but it's also a sequel. Him being involved in the TV show for Paramount in 1923 with Helen Mirren,
Yeah.
which is like, again, it's a prequel to the Yellowstone franchise, but then it's a sequel sort of to 1893, I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they're doing a 1944 coming up, but
Crazy.
there's no real information about that. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
like bootlegging and whatever, and like Brooklyn or something. But no, it's supposed to be out west though, so it'll be something out there.
Yeah.
But no, Harrison Ford is great as this, aging guy on the range. He's fun in that series, and it's done. It's just a two season deal. There's no
And
more than
then
that.
once again coming back, him and Helen Mirren, which is cool.
Yeah,
Love to see that
yeah,
pair up. Um, and so yeah, that was his like first foray back into into TV, because I don't think
really
he's
ever
done.
kind
And
of. Yeah,
and then
he did some little TV bits in like the 60s and 70s, but
And
nothing
then
good.
on top of that show, he's also in Apple TV's Shrinking, which is
Right,
really
right.
cool. If you haven't seen it, definitely watch it. It's a fun. It's made by the creators of Ted Lasso, and Harrison Ford plays a therapist, and
Like a
it's
grumpy sort of a therapist.
yeah, he's a grumpy
By the way,
therapist.
that sounds exactly like the doctor I had to see today, where like he was so unimpressed. It was like I was
Yeah,
sitting there and I was trying to like describe my symptoms, and I could just see him just kind of him like squishing his face with his fingers,
Yeah.
barely on his chair, listening to me, and I'm like, am I this disinteresting that you're basically dying on the chair in front of me? It sounds like what Harrison
Yeah.
Ford is
Very
channeling, but
similar, but then he also has moments of levity where he's very humorous and he bounces off Jason Segel's characters really well.
yeah,
And then he has such heart. There's like so many scenes where he is talking to any of the main characters of the show and telling them like, "Hey, tough love, like this is what you need to do with your life, like this." And he's like the emotional backbone of this awesome show. So if you haven't seen it, it's very good. Shrinking. It's on Apple. I really like that Harrison has gotten into the TV space because it's just more Harrison is always a good thing in this
the only
world.
thing I sort of my only critique, and I'm probably the only one in the world that will actually critique Harrison Ford. I feel like in his later years here, I feel like someone next to him needs to say, Harrison, clear your throat. Like take like a Lozogen and like suck on the thing for a little bit because it sounds like it's like now maybe he's just old enough where he can't do anything about it. I get it, but like you can't fault the guy when he's in his 80s. But like,
No.
and also by the way, I was thinking about this when I was kind of looking through his like filmography just to remind myself all these great films. I remember thinking, okay, so he's 83. And so I just backed up to 10 years and I looked at, okay, what was he doing in 2015, 14, whatever. And I just started thinking, okay, that age is what the age of Opa, your grandpa, my
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah.
And if you want Opa to do something and spend a bunch of time doing something, you're going to have to really convince him to do it,
That
to
it's
get off
worth
the
it.
couch. Because he's
Yeah.
like, I just want to have my beverage and I want to watch my thing and I want to,
Yeah.
nothing crazy. He's just like, you got to convince an older guy it's worth his effort to go do the thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
think somewhere around like Blade Runner, which is right around when he made that, people are like, hey, it's Blade Runner. And he's
Yeah.
like, well,
I
and so
guess.
that's where I'm like, people are like, it's 1923, it's shrinking. So I
Yeah.
think they're like realizing he'll only do
Yeah.
good ones.
Well,
And I'm glad he's
yeah,
doing those.
shrinking. I think the story is great, and if you watch the interview, someone should watch the interview of Jason talking about it. But he was talking about how someone he knew, either a producer or whatever, was like, uh, he's like, you should send this to Harrison. He like because he wanted Harrison Ford. I think he wrote the role for Harrison Ford,
Oh, sure.
and
Yeah.
they were like he sent it to Harrison Ford, and he got a call, and he was, yeah, this is Harrison. I don't do a Harrison Ford impression, but he's
You're
like,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is Harrison Ford. This is a great script, kid. Like, I want to do it. And then he was
Yeah.
like, what? Like, what? Because that's, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's just this cool, like, he randomly read it and was like, yeah, I want to do this. This is awesome. So that's
That's
like, that's
cool.
so cool.
It's funny because I've written, I don't know, something like 9 or 10 screenplays. And when I haven't written one in a while, but when I was writing them, I do have in mind certain actors because it helps.
Sure.
Because when you're writing a script, you don't get to do a lot of like description.
No.
Like you get like a sentence or two, and so the if you're good at your craft, you have to do it in the dialogue, and so sometimes you need. Yeah, you can maybe do 1 or 2 scripts with just not having anyone in mind, but
Yeah.
like you really start to need some voices to like pair, even if that never gets to that person, of course, or maybe they're passed on, or they were. I'm thinking of so and so in their prime in the 1960s or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, I did want to throw out one movie that Harrison Ford did that I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up. I think it doesn't get the credit it's due. Is K-19, The Widowmaker?
Ooh.
It's a movie where he plays a submarine captain,
Okay.
um, and has Liam Neeson and Peter Sarsgaard,
Wow.
and
Great cast.
it's really good, and it's not the best submarine movie of all time, but it's also a movie you could put on and you can watch and go, yeah, I just watched a cool movie, a historical film about a guy in a submarine. This is great. So it's like
Yeah.
it's one of those that he made right around 2000, 2005, right around the last time he was like really. It seemed like one of the last movies he was like putting an effort in, and
Okay.
then he started putting an effort in a little later again. But he had this little moment where he was like, I'm just gonna be on my ranch and have a dog.
That's fair.
But
That's fair.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been a conversation about one of the greats, Harrison Ford. He got his Lifetime
uh,
Achievement Award this
so
week,
good,
which is
so
really
good.
cool.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, is there something that you're looking forward to watching coming up? Um,
Um, Yeah, I'm gonna start watching the new Godzilla show,
Oh yeah,
which is
Monarch.
yeah, um, that just came out this last weekend, I think. And yeah, there's a few other ones that I gotta watch some trailers to see what's upcoming, and maybe I'll watch Shrinking. I don't know.
Yeah, I like it. That show and Ted Lasso are two shows I suggest to anybody because it highlights it's a perfect highlight of humanity, and it's a balance of like all the different types of people that you'll meet in the world right now, of like just all kinds of, so like everyone will find a person that they relate to in both of those shows. That makes it a fun time to watch. uh for me, I just finished Sons of Anarchy, and so I'm kind of in a post show like, I can't fathom
Yeah,
starting something else. Um, that was really good. I really liked Sons of Anarchy. The way it ended was very Shakespearean. I very much enjoyed it. If you haven't seen
yeah.
Sons of Anarchy, give that a watch. There is a new movie out right now that my wife and I want to see, which is called The Bride, and it's a Maggie Gyllenhaal directed movie. It's Christian Bale, and he plays Frankenstein, but it's a gangster movie. It's like Bonnie and Clyde meets Frankenstein, and it looks interesting. So I'm excited to see that. But yeah, this has
Cool.
been another episode of the Great Movie Pod. Should be back another next week with another episode. Don't necessarily have a topic nailed down, but thanks for watching wherever you're watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Turn on the post notifications for any platform that you use, because it lets you know when we have a new episode. We do try to release episodes every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Doesn't always happen that way. We have skipped a few weeks here and there, but for the most part, we try to keep semi-consistent Friday nights at 6. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Yeah, have a good
Cool.
one. We'll see you guys.
Peace.